We've got quite the adventure in store this week as we talk to the creative force behind an upcoming tabletop role-playing game from a company that I absolutely love. Hey there, adventurers. Welcome back to Short Rest Studios. My name is Judd, and this week we're talking to Joseph C. Wolf, also known as ReaperWolf, the head writer and developer of the upcoming tabletop role-playing game Dungeon Dwellers from Reaper Miniatures. ReaperWolf has a lot to say, so let's dig right into that interview. All right, adventurers, here I am with Joseph C. Wolf, aka ReaperWolf, head writer and developer for Reaper Miniatures. He is hard at work on the Dungeon Dwellers RPG, and that's what we're going to be talking about this week. So how you doing, man?
Doing awesome, man. How are you?
Good, good. And you just got done, we were just talking about this before we started, you just got done with ReaperCon. We both went, but he was there for the whole thing. I was only there for a day, and he's still exhausted.
Dude, well, I mean, actually, I'm only like one fatigue level at this point, but when I got home, it was like all. It was like, But yes, it took it out of me because I ran 165 man hours of games, 21 actual real hours, but 8-player tables, and all of them but one were full.
Wow. That's awesome. So there's a lot of interest in this game.
Yeah, to say the least. I'm thrilled. I could not be happier with the response. The fans have been super cool and very sweet. Yeah, I could not be happier.
I'll tell you, one of my favorite things actually about being at ReaperCon was, and it was kind of accidental that we even talked to you. But just hearing you talk so passionately about this game that you're working on, man, that's one of the things I love about going to these things is just getting to talk to people about the stuff that they're so passionate about.
Yeah, it's definitely a passion project. When we started a couple years ago, it was just kind of one of those, you know what? There's an opportunity here. There's nothing between 5th/Pathfinder, etc. The later editions of D20. And OSR. There really wasn't anything at that point. So we were looking to make a bridge product that just it fires on all the cylinders that we love. Pathfinder's great, 5e's great. They really deliver on that amazing, super heroic, almost Marvel Studios quality of D&D, right? And then there's the OSR, which is, you fail to say that you look up and the monster gets you. But we wanted something that was kind of in between. And I think Dungeon Dwellers does that well. It plays kind of modern. It's consistent. You're not rolling a d6 to find secret doors. Sorry, OSR. That's just one of those things that just makes me go crazy. But yeah, and talking to the fans like yourself, and it was neat. It was just really cool because we seem to have found our niche. People are like, okay, I get it. I kind of get what you guys are going after. And the fan reception's been great.
There's some other questions I wanted to ask you that kind of relate to that, but I just want to show everybody right now. So you told us to ask for a particular book that came in the swag bag that we didn't get. And they didn't give it to us. They gave us this instead.
Yeah, that's an interesting. That's a very interesting little present you got there.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you told me because we were kind of wondering where that copy ended up. Yeah, because that's what we refer to that as an unpublished galley.
Well, yeah. I was noticing some incomplete things in it.
Well, that's to be expected, but that was not supposed to leave the premises. But you know what?
Oh my goodness.
Oh well.
Well, hey, I promise we didn't steal it. Somebody gave it to us. They didn't know what they were giving us, and we didn't know what we were getting.
No heads are gonna roll. It's totally cool. I mean,
I can drive to Denton and give it back to him. I think I should.
But when you bring it to next year, and I'll sign it for you, man. Hold on to that, and if you be so kind as to not distribute that.
Oh no, absolutely not. Absolutely
I was like,
not.
We were literally piling them up, and we were like, okay, Game Master's book, okay, but we're missing a player's guide, and everyone just kind of did this.
One of the things I love is I love the little foreword that you wrote in there, man, because again, it's like I can hear your passion in it and just your excitement for growing up playing these kind of games and just wanting to create something like that. And it really, like like really resonated with me, like emotionally. I thought it was really great.
Yeah, you should have been there, man, because that's a true story, by the way. That is 100% true story. Yeah. Oh boy.
So what is, for the uninitiated, I mean, we know it's a fantasy RPG, but what is Dungeon Dwellers?
I'd actually like to answer that with what it isn't. And what it isn't is it's not a super heroic high fantasy role-playing game. It's not a fantasy heartbreaker. I don't like that title. I own like 30 different fantasy RPGs around the room here. And each one offers something different. And that's why I own them, is that they all are, like Earth Dawn offers a different experience from Against the Dark Master, etc. And Dungeon Dwellers is really, it's our love letter to the D&D that we played as kids. You know, it's dark, it's dangerous, it's unpredictable. The idea of players going online and finding optimized builds to, you know, augment their gaming experience is completely thrown out the window. We're not going to give you like an online resource that basically says this class plus this yields the best results.
Here's how you min-max.
Exactly. And so what we're going to do is we're going to give you a dangerous experience. The monsters are tough. I mean, the player characters are as well, but you know, you're going to find yourself a little bit. Modern game design from certain companies says, let's put the cork on the fork and make this experiential, you know? And that's a Dirty Rotten Scoundrels reference, by the way. The thing is that those experiences are fine. That's great. If that's what you want, there's plenty of options out there. But Dungeon Dwellers is like critical hit, 2019. Oh, I'm sorry, that's an extra 2 dice of damage. You just flatlined. Oh, I get a death save, right? There are no death saves. There's no rails. There's no tour guide. There's no training wheels. It's just you're going into a dungeon, and kind of like some of the, you know, really brutal video games out there, Dark Souls, you go down the wrong corridor when the game master specifically suggests, you know, guys, maybe you shouldn't go down the steps with the really scary, you know, green vapor. You know, there's a pile of skulls there, and there's a broken shield that's like been torn in half. Maybe you shouldn't go down there. And the players are like, we're going! And the game master goes, okay.
Yeah, I've given you every sign.
Short of the monsters coming up the stairs and saying you must be this level to go down here. But if you go down the wrong corridor, but like I said, you're not going to be killed by a sparrow or a hangnail. But you get into a fight and it's unpredictable. And because of the way our criticals work, it's like bam, bam, bam. And we had a player, she just cracked me up. We were at the end of the game anyway, so it totally worked out. She drew back the arrow, basically fired like off-site artillery with her short bow, and the arrow just kind of arced. Roll a 20, followed by a 19. She calls an extra couple of dice of damage. She pincushioned my monster from the inside out, man. Monster's mouth was wide open. Punk! Finished it. 1 hit. Bit of a surprise. And those things happen sometimes. And that's one of the things that makes Dungeon Dwellers cool. But it's also the power level is way down. I don't have to create like monsters with like 90 or 100 hit points at level 2 to just challenge the players because of the system is so hit points happy, which I'm afraid to say later editions of the game system are. Because as the player levels do this, they have to do this, and it never catches up because it's all up here. So we brought it all the way down.
It's not even about simplifying, but it's just about reducing those numbers because it just feels like over the years, I love D&D. It's a great game. I love it. I play 5e. I feel like over the years, the numbers just keep getting higher and it just starts to feel unwieldy after a point. And that's one of the things that I appreciate. I actually appreciate that about like Dungeon Crawl Classics. You know, you start out with 4 hit points, you know. But,
oh yeah,
but let's not talk.
And 6 characters.
Yeah, right. But that's one of the things that I appreciated about Dungeon Dwellers is I felt like, you know, we're just like, let's just rein this back in a little bit.
Yeah, and the thing, like I said, is that those other games really deliver on the super heroic experience. You know, it's like characters look like in the old days. You know, if you had your like, you know, your helmet and your chainmail and your shield, and you felt like a badass. But now you have to look like a level 80 character from World of Warcraft, or the player doesn't feel like, you know, that they've got afoot in the game. It's like they all have to look like superheroes. Whereas Dungeon Dwellers is more. It's more rooted in the old fiction of like Lankmar and Hyboria and Moorcock. But basically, we wanted that experience, and we just want some peril, man. So Dungeon Dwellers encourages like a little heroics, a little guts, and if things don't work out, you pull it together and you make the best of it you can, because sometimes you're in the dungeon and you're out of torches.
You talked about it a little bit, but talk about kind of the core mechanics of the game and like what's going to set Dungeon Dwellers apart from a D&D 5e, Pathfinder, or OSR games. What sets it apart?
The initiative system, for one. We don't go off the D20. My hatred for the cyclical initiative goes back to the very first moment I cracked open the player's handbook. 3.0, actually. I just went, you roll once and that's it. That lasted for exactly 2 game sessions before I was like, nope, you're rolling every round. But the thing is that it all depends on how you're wielding the weapon and what you're doing. And so at its simplest, basically, if you wield a weapon that's too big for you, it's slow. If you wield a weapon that's really light and well balanced, it's very quick. And so the system reflects that. And also, because we're only using a D4 up to a D12 for initiative, what happens is it pushes a lot of people towards each other, and people are like, well, I hate that. I'm like, well, play it once and you'll see some cool stuff happening. There's a bunch of little things that are scattered throughout. A lot of the spells that just don't feel right have been reworked and are being reworked. I hate spells that are all or nothing, because there's no reason to ever take them. So what's going to happen, I think, in our setup, and I'm still working on this, I'm still working on some of the spells. In fact, I was doing that just before I jumped online with you. The spells will give you 1 round, at least. And some spells will give you roll until you make it. Some spells are, sorry, you failed the spells, you failed the save. And unless something changes the circumstances, you're stuck. And that was one of the things that the designers really didn't like. So basically, we want magic to feel different. We want it to feel not like a flashlight. We want it to feel cool. And so we're even exploring some unusual design principles, like rolling for your spell to see if it even goes off. There's a couple things that we're still experimenting with, that we're still settling on, but every spell will be scalable. You will be able to adjust the effect. We're looking at making those spell options viable, and I don't necessarily think that you have to dangle them in front of your players and say, oh, well, you can't do this until 3rd level. No, we're knocking all the spell levels down. You asked for what we're different. I'm looking at doing some pretty crazy stuff with the spell system. There's the Vancian system might be replaced by spell points, and level 9 as the penultimate level may go away. I can say this safely because this is what I'm going for. It's not done yet. We're going to be playtesting it this weekend, but I took all the spells and said, when do you get it? As opposed to what level is it? And so caster level is spell level. So if you're 3rd level, you can cast 3rd level spells. But got to remember the way the spells are set up, they're spread out. But a lot of the spells that are like really powerful, like Fireball is a good example, it is probably not going to be a 5th level spell. It'll probably get slid a little farther down to 3rd level. And it's just that as you scale it, it gets more dice and more area of effect.
So what about the world,
Ooh.
The setting?
Now you're talking my language, man. I love mechanics, but I love talking about the setting. It is a reined-in, dark, high fantasy world, supported by Reaper's extensive, beautiful range of miniatures. It is.
Full disclosure, I'm a huge fan of Reaper minis.
Well, I like to hear that.
I love them.
I wouldn't play in it or run it almost exclusively for like the last 20 years if it wasn't really, really cool. We have vampire-controlled nations. We have environmental extreme areas. We have a Malapongo jungle. So if you want like a dark, like an African kind of setting, we give that to you. We have a savage pirate portion. It's all kind of integrated. Our elves and dwarves are healthy populations. They're not dying out. It's not. This is Middle Earth. Our elves, and we have a ton of elves. We have a ton of different kinds of dwarves. We have a ton of different kinds of halflings. So it really gives you, basically pick a spot on the map and play there. And there's always something to do, and it's well supported. We've been kind of trickling out world information with our various setting guides, like the Traveler's Guide to Barrowgate, which is pardon grunting. Traveler's Guide to Barrowgate here, which was in the swag box for ReaperCon. We also have we have 2 setting guides, in fact, for the Savage Coast. One for like the piratical area, and the other one is like Brynwind, which is the classic pirate-run city. It's the Tortuga of our setting. You have your pick. We have the default setting for Dungeon Dwellers is the Hills Edge province, which is part of Vestonia, which used to be part of the Grand Kingdom of Anhur. And at one point, 200 odd years ago, it broke away with its sister country, Telluria. And they kind of made their own little part of the world. And since then, it's been ruled by the Archduke and then these Vice Dukes and one Duchess now. And it's your classic fantasy setting, except adventurers are liked. Like, they like adventurers there. They even issue, the city of Barrowgate even issues licenses, which gives you tax breaks. On the treasure. Dude, if you bring in 30,000 gold pieces of treasure from a dead dragon, you know what that does to the local economy? Also, the city watch is more likely to cut you some slack because, you get involved in stuff. And the Hills Edge province is the green and it's the civilized West. And so it's just loaded with opportunities to just get involved in the other provinces that comprise it. There's all kinds of skullduggery. There are secret societies and cults, and there's just something for everybody. But what you won't see is flying castles. You won't see airports with dragons, right? It's rooted in mid-medieval, not Renaissance. So there are no printing presses. We have a god of industry and craftsmanship and stuff, but he's not exactly encouraging people to create magically powered fill in the blank. It doesn't quite work that way. So it's still kind of rooted in magic is kind of uncommon. People know about it the same way they know about dragons, but they don't really want to have anything to do with spellcasters because you never know. But for whatever reason, the Vestonians like adventurers. They revere them. They're the local heroes. And what's coolest about the setting itself, if I can go into just a teeny bit more detail, if you will endure me, is there's a West Barrow Hills between Haldor, which is like Rohan of Lord of the Rings, so the horse lords of Haldor. You have this massive 80 league by 24 league, which is huge, like 240 miles by 60 miles. Giant graveyard. It's the West Barrow Hills, and it's a clear dividing line between the civilized West and the uncivilized East, right? And so you have this massive dungeon that's comprised of a billion other little tombs and crypts, and it's like Bree in the Barrow Grounds, and to the nth degree. So every time a bad guy gets an idea to, I'm going to become a warlord, and they build like a fortress, they put it in the West Barrow Hills. And so it's surrounded by all these tombs and so, and it's just mega dungeons, absolutely huge mega dungeons. And if you ever want for something to do, go off to the West Barrow Hills. There's plenty of treasure.
You guys have a Kickstarter coming up starting in October for basically a starter set for Dungeon Dwellers. Tell us about that.
Everything is still in the works. As you would expect, everything's always crazy as we start scheduling everything. We have a very full docket, but what we're going to be producing is a box set. We do have a video, and I'll make sure that you get the link to the video after this, and where we actually review it, where we actually show it off and stuff. It's a starter box set. Character levels to be determined, but it won't be level 20, I guarantee you that. Currently it's 1 to 5, but I'm pushing for 1 to 3 for my various reasons, with more support to follow. Player's Guide, Game Master's Book, Monster Book, a Get Started book, which is basically read this first, and it walks you through game mastery. You don't have to go online and study for 2 weeks. You don't have to comb through 450 pages of rules. It's literally what you need to know to run this adventure, to cut your teeth as a game master in an afternoon. and it's very cool. It's still very much under development as we look for the right language to kind of sort of guide players and game masters. But you could literally buy the box set, bring it home, crack it open, read that like 16 pages, which includes 4 pre-generated characters, and because it comes with a large fold-out map, you can be up and playing in like an hour or 2. So it injects you right into what the hobby's like.
That's one of the things I think is difficult about this hobby, is that sometimes the bar to entry seems really high, even when it's not necessarily. Sometimes it seems that way. And actually, that does lead me. You said you wanted some feedback. One of the things that I really did like about the way the book is formatted is that with character creation and combat and things like that, you actually listed it like, here are the steps, not just these are the things that are involved in this process, but like, here's step 1, do this, and I thought that was really helpful.
That's our goal. We want you to come away with, like, even if this is the first time reading through the player's guide, we want you to go, oh, I've already got all these cool ideas. But it's only 4 ancestries, we call them folk, human, elf, dwarf, and halfling, and also 4 classes, which provides 16 combinations of, cleric, wizard, fighter, and rogue. And some people will be like, well, this other game is letting me play 20 times 20, and there's subclasses and subraces, and I'm like, well, that's great. And what I would say is that those games are great, lots of options. And you're going to spend a couple of weeks figuring out which one suits you best. You're going to watch YouTube videos, and you're going to have to go online. We already have a ton of stuff that's in the can, additional classes. Of course, we're going to put a barbarian, we're going to put a ranger, we're going to put a paladin. Currently, we are offering fighter, and these are very broad, clerics, fighters, rogues, and wizards. And they're very focused. You're not going to see the monstrous, scary block of 20 levels of stuff. A lot of that gets lost, and statistics already basically say that people stop running the game around 7th. By 10th, the game masters have abandoned the game, or the players have, because it's just so complicated. And there's a lot going on, right? So our game basically provides a very focused, specific experience where fighters fight. They can do more than that, depending upon how they're built. Clerics do cleric-y stuff, and rogues do rogue-y stuff, and wizards do wizardy stuff. And that orthogonal design guides a lot of our principles, and that is, this is what the class should really do, and this is what they do. They do it really well. But you don't need 35 special abilities to make that class do well. That's one of our other principles. We want the game to be we want it to be playable at level 20. I would like to release regular expansions on the web and then compile them after they've been play tested and we get some feedback, and then compiled and released. And of course, when you buy the box set, you get the PDF, and we'll also make the PDF available. The books will be available separately. There's all that still kind of coming together. But the big thing is that you're going to have plenty of options within the first year of release. You're going to have support material, extra spells, etc. You're not going to wait very long for it. Our Ranger will be good out of the gate. I guarantee you that. You won't have to wait 10 years for a decent Beastmaster Ranger.
So you mentioned the PDF. Do you guys have plans to have Dungeon Dwellers available on like Roll20 or any of those other VTTs?
What my standard answer is let's get it in print first, and then let's figure out what to do with it. But I would like it to be. But seriously, my bread and butter is the tabletop experience. I recently introduced my nieces and nephews to a cut down, simplified version, and it was just wonderful. And ReaperCon, playing with people face to face, was just, there's nothing that equals that. And virtual tabletops are cool, but it's just not the same. Even with the same people, it's just different.
I agree with you, man. I mean, I love playing D&D. I love playing role-playing games, but there's just, it's not the same. There's something about that, enjoying that, laughing together, kind of sharing that story together. I mean, that's what it's about for me.
When somebody does something so amazing that they blast Mountain Dew and Cheetos onto the table, That doesn't happen in a virtual tabletop. Yes. Because there isn't that level
if it
of...
does, somebody's got to get a new computer.
Yeah! Totally worth it. But you just don't get that at virtual tabletops, because even when it's running really well, even if you have everything like automated and stuff, it's just different. The sound of dice rolling, it's just different. But virtual tabletops are great because it does allow you to play with friends from all over the planet. And I do have occasionally run a game online with my friends back in Northern California, or I have a friend in Germany or a friend in Greenland or whatever.
When you think of like the perfect game, if somebody is sitting down to play Dungeon Dwellers, like what does that perfect game look like? Like how much is it role playing? How much is it combat? What does that perfect game of Dungeon Dwellers look like?
It's a perfect blend of, you're scared poopless, then you're relieved, and then you have your big fight and you suffer loss, and somebody gets pushed right to the edge, and the game master isn't, softballing, it just works out. The player survives, or they don't, and there's a tragedy. I love games that have a mix of all those elements, and when the players make choices, when they poke in a corner, they're telling me they want to explore. When they interact with an NPC, seemingly at random, they're telling me what they want. When the players take ownership of some of the content, not all of the content, because I want to get the stuff published, right? So I got to write it. But the thing is, when the player takes ownership and they take a big bite of the apple, and they feel invested, they feel like their choices matter, and they indicate that to me as the game master, that those are the perfect sessions to me.
I want to go back to the starter box for a minute, because you mentioned this to me at ReaperCon. I don't think you said it a moment ago, but part of what's in that box, actually, there are miniatures.
Oh yeah,
in that box, right? Yeah.
There are the miniatures you need to run that starter adventure are in there, and so it's a nice selection of, in my opinion, it's a nice selection of dungeon critters, under fauna and monsters that deliver on that true experience. Here's some undead, here's some creepy crawlies, here's some humanoids, here's a slime molded jelly, and then here's a big boss type creature at the end. And so all the miniatures are included, including those 4 really beautiful iconic characters that were premiered at ReaperCon. There's some really cool. They're 4 iconics. They're really cool.
Do we know a launch date for the Kickstarter yet?
It has not been announced.
Okay. So that doesn't mean you don't know it. That just means it hasn't been announced.
That is exactly what that means. I've been in the business for a while.
Yeah.
So basically, we haven't announced it yet because we're still getting ducks in a row. It's a very complex situation, and we want to make sure that we do it right. We want to make sure everything's in place, and so we would rather delay it and kind of spring it on you on some day. However, October is a date. We only have a few weeks within there to run a 3-week Kickstarter. Just saying that. There will be a fair amount of fanfare, and I will be very annoying online about it, because I'll be posting something new about it every day.
Oh, that's good.
There will be lots of videos. There will be some playtest stuff. There's going to be a lot of things that we're currently planning. So it's going to be a blitzkrieg of information. So just sit back and drink from the firing hose.
So is there anything that you would like to say to the audience about this game that you haven't said already?
It's written for them. It's the edition that I want to play. It's the edition I want to game master. It's the edition that I can sit down and crack out. I can take any monster. I have thousands of pages of monster books. I can sit down and crack out a conversion in minutes. The world building is there. The game system supports it. And it's just fun. It's the game that I would have given my younger self on that Saturday afternoon and said, "Hey kid, run this." And that's really Dungeon Dwellers. It's dark and it's mysterious, it's perilous, and there's no certainty, and it's just a bunch of feckless adventurers crawling around dusty tombs and moldy graves looking for cool stuff.
I love it, man. Do you want to tell everybody how they can find you on social media or anything like that?
Well, I accept most friend requests on Facebook, of course. Reaper Minis, of course, does have their own Facebook page, so a quick search will turn that up. We have a very active forum at reapermini.com. We have our own Dungeon Dwellers chunk, our own little banner. Hit that to download our beta. I'm currently pushing to update it so that it's a little more reflective of kind of where we're headed. And there's also a bunch of adventures. There's like Family Jewels and The Vanishing Blackguard. There's a lot of really cool adventures and little sneak peeks into the setting. There's also a really extensive 12-page little booklet on the Green Griffin Inn. We have a very active community, and we do like to engage with our fans. And, if you get me on Discord and ask me questions, I will answer the question.
Reaper's always been super responsive, and it's obvious that they love their fans, and they're not just making a product. They're not just trying to make money.
ReaperCon came out as a fan convention. It was just, let's eat some barbecue, let's play some games. And that's where ReaperCon came from.
I love Reaper. I'm kind of fanboying right now, It's like it's hard to be objective on this interview.
Here's how I started with Reaper, dude. I worked at a hobby shop in Kalamazoo, Michigan. We had just gotten a shipment of Reaper miniatures, and it was like 96. I called him up, and the art director, my permanent number one bromance, Ron Hawkins, who is the creative director and COO of Reaper Miniatures, picked up the phone and talked to me and sent me some goodies, and then, oh, you write? Yeah, and then that's what happened. It took a few years before they hired me full time, but now this is what we're doing, and I couldn't be more excited. I'm absolutely thrilled that this is going to be Reaper's first real entry into the role-playing market, and great things are coming up, man. I'm tired. These bags exist here for a reason, man. We're cranking out some cool stuff.
Thanks a lot, man, for talking with me and just for sharing your passion for this product, man. It sounds like it's gonna be really exciting.
It's an honor and a privilege to be here, Jude. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Man, adventurers, I really do love talking to people who are passionate about their work, and I am really excited about this game now that I've talked to Mr. Wolf. Hey, if you enjoyed today's interview, do me a huge favor, hit that like button. It lets me know that you like what I'm doing, and it helps other people to find these videos. And also, we got a ton of great episodes coming up. We're gonna be looking at some different games, from Dungeon Crawl Classics to Pathfinder 2e to Call of Cthulhu. So you wanna hit that subscribe button so you can keep up with everything that's coming up. And I will see you next time on Short Rest Studios.